Learn cybersecurity and focus technical training with justhacking.com, where all-star instructors and industry experts provide hands-on, affordable, and practical learning. Across courses, free upskill challenges, hack-along training videos, and capture the flag competitions, there's always something to hack. With new content twice a month, all throughout the year, plus bi-monthly live streams, you can sharpen your skills in our on-demand and interactive lab environments. Advance your career and level up, regardless of your experience or budget. Forget all the noise and get to Just Hacking. Sign up now at justhacking.com. Hello! Hello, everybody! How are we doing? We are live? Are we live? I think we're live. You know, I always, it's off the cuff. It's always an improv show. We're having some fun here. But I think, we're all streaming, multicasting, all the fun for YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch, etc. But super good to see everybody. Happy Friday. I think it's Friday. It is Friday? It is Friday. Time is kind of a vortex for me right now. I'm not going to lie. This is usually when the year, if it hasn't already, kicks on because October coming up, Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and all those fun things kind of have me running all over. But look, thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for coming to hang out for a little bit. Welcome back to another Just Hacking Training live stream. Now, if you aren't familiar, Just Hacking Training, or JHT, has been a fun, awesome new endeavor for us to be able to get out some more education, some more training, some more awareness, some more cybersecurity learning, and so much more. We've been trying to say, hey, focus technical training for all levels. And with that, you get, a lot of the free, a lot of the pay what you can, pay what you want, name your price, super accessible, easy to jump into stuff, and some of the more curriculum-focused courseware and courses, like a schoolhouse kind of thing. And we've got a ton of these cooking, and it's kind of been phenomenal and incredible to see it all grow. And I'm just super grateful for all your support. But with that, I get to kind of do the spiel. I get to do a little song, dog and pony show to talk about Just Hacking Training. And I hope you don't mind me talking shop here, but we do have a very special guest. And I know the title of the live stream and all, we'll get into learning some Python, the programming language, scripting language, and all that. But before we do dive in, please, 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 let me do the spiel. Let me do the announcements. Let me let you all know what we've been up to. And my goodness, there's a lot. So I'm going to try and share my screen super quick. I know I'm talking off the cuff as we do this thing live, but welcome. Welcome to Just Hacking Training, and I'm here online on the website at justhacking.com. This is home base. This is HQ. And before we dive in to all about everything, I know maybe some of the first couple questions we're going to get are, is this being recorded? Is this something that I could watch later on demand because you got to run, you got work, you got stuff going on, whatever? Short answer, yes, it is being recorded. You can find this on the YouTube, on the LinkedIn, on the Twitter, all the things. It'll be there. And yes, that's the short answer. The long answer is, hey, you could always go see even some of our past and previous live streams or conversations with guests and good folks and friends over on our website in the events page on the vitals section of the navigation here. So look, we've been doing a whole lot of sweet stuff. We were hanging out with Mishal for OSINT, Open Source Intelligence, hanging out with Ellie for some cryptography work, some Active Directory hacking with Slavi, even more Windows malware dev. We'll touch on that in a little bit with David. Tons and tons and tons of awesome stuff. But look, I've been traveling quite a bit. And I'm going to continue to be traveling for even more, as now we are getting into, as I mentioned and alluded to, October, Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and all the fun things there. With that, there's a lot to chat about, so if I may, I'd love to show you. Look, I just got back from B-Sides Cayman Islands, which was lovely, which was awesome. I've been hanging out with them for about 3 years now, and it's very, very cool. Great to see all the growth that community is and everything that they're doing to get a little bit smarter and sharper and bring up the community in cybersecurity. And I was super flattered. It was genuinely a real honor to be able to be part of their keynote. It was their opening keynote the other day. And now I'm back. Now I'm back home to hang out with you all, to do more internet things. But incredible people here, phenomenal session, phenomenal conference, and great stuff. Did want to make sure to give them a shout out and let you know where I've been and what I've been up to. Now that I'm home with the, quick flight from the Cayman Islands, and now jumping back over for more travel because I'll be over at B-Sides, Connecticut tomorrow. Have a sweet keynote there along with all them. So very, very excited and looking forward to B-Sides, Connecticut with another opening keynote. And just a lot of incredible folks. Did want to be sure to highlight and showcase them. With that, let me tell you about some of the more super cool, super fun, awesome stuff that Just Hacking Training is doing, because I am so excited. We were genuinely super hyped about this because this has kind of been a goal for us. This has been a milestone. We get to finally teach and train in person, live in the Windy City, Chicago, B-Side Chicago. Hey, we're offering some really exclusive training there, a lot of the fun stuff with some great people. Michelle will be there to cover some open source intelligence. Trevor Tivo will be there to do some hardware hacking. That includes a kit, so you do get to learn with some hands-on, really tactical stuff. And Ellie will be carrying some vibe coding for responsible adults session, a little bit of AI. But I'll be digging into some script-based malware analysis. I think we'll have some links flying out in the chat. If anyone were available and wanted to tune in live and in person, spend a sweet day with us, get a chance to hang out and learn with Just Hacking Training live at B-Side Chicago. Hey, I acknowledge and know that we had an early bird sale when we were getting this out the door, spreading the word and making sure this was well known. Truth be told, it's been a little bit. Early bird is now over. We do, however, have another cool discount out the door. I think there is still 10% off if folks were willing and wanted to jump in to those Just Hacking featured workshops with myself and some of the other incredible people part of the team. So please, 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 if you're in the area, we'd love to see you. We'd love to see you hang out. And it would be awesome to get you all together with us. With that, I'm going to close some notifications that I keep getting, and we'll keep cruising. All right. Did I cover everything? Did I cover everything on B-Side Chicago? Backstage production, I think. All good. The voice in the back of my head. People let me know if I got all the right answers and I said everything I should have. But hey, jumping back over to the website, heading back to justhacking.com. As I said, look, a lot of the sweet stuff we've been up to are the courses and paths and training material there, upskill challenges that are free, hack along, capture the flag work. Let me let you know about some of the sweet courses that have come out the door very, very recently, because we are releasing new training and new material every month. Really, honestly, like twice a month, 2 different opportunities. First, we will get some training and a full course out the door. And following that, we'll get some more of those upskill challenges, free, name your price, pay what you want, pay what you can, etc. But Incident Response 101 was what we had released previously. And that's been very, very cool to get some more career-focused work as a blue team defender, as someone that might be part of the Security Operations Center, maybe, or maybe just dedicated, focused, on-call incident response. So there's a lot of sweet material there for Incident Response 101, and that plays very well with constructing defense, with a lot of the other training material where we have a full-blown lab environment, all these different virtual machines you could spin up to get into action with the domain controller, with workstations, with web servers, with FTP, file transfer protocol, etc., etc., etc. Super cool stuff there, but I know that is not the focus. I did want to hype up Security Operations Center Analyst 101, SOC Analyst 101. Very, very excited to get this out the door so we could pour into a little bit more of the blue team and defense work, because that's super important. And I know that's oftentimes your first foot in the door to get a career launch pad and springboard into the industry and what you might be doing for your job. So I hope that's accessible for you. SOC Analyst 101 is a name your price course. I think there's a minimum floor of 25, but a suggested price, we're kind of at least suggesting, if you're willing to help support, if you're willing to appreciate us for everything that we're up to, I hope you can get a chance to play with that. But that gets you into Elastic. That gets you into a SIEM solution. That gets you into SOC. efforts and work. Very cool stuff. SOC Analyst 101 out the door. And along with that, while we could give love to our blue team defender friends, I do want to give a little bit of love just as well to the more offensive security angle. Not strictly red team, because I know there are a whole lot of definitions as to how we capture that, but maybe more of the penetration testing work, building and developing your own malware tooling, payloads, etc. So if you caught the last live stream, David Schloss got to join us, and he was chatting about some Windows malware development. And this is now his fourth course, which is awesome, for position-independent code, or position-independent, process-independent shell code, whatever we want to bundle that up as. So if you're interested in that, a little bit more low-level C shenanigans, I hope you're willing to dive in. A lot of cool stuff there. And David is hysterical. He's just a great guy. He's just so funny and so fun to hang out with. Anyway, let us get to really the important stuff for today. Because if this is later in the month with these releases, with these launches, with the new content, new training out and about that's available, I know all those other ones had a price tag. And maybe that's not everyone's favorite thing. So look, I do want to make sure we could get some free and accessible training out for you that has no gate, has no wall up in front of it, that are completely free, small, bite-sized training lessons called upskill challenges. And we'll try to get these out the door, again, just about every month. Maybe, I think it's the third week or so every month where we are getting some new stuff out. And previously, we got to dig into some of the more specific hands-on labs that had a virtual machine alongside them, some environment you could spin up and get into. But now we've got a couple new cool ones coming out the door for us. I think we also have a sneak fetch the flag for some of the CTF friends. If anyone wanted to dig into the archives of our 2025 game and that event competition that we hosted for the Fetch the Flag challenges, that one is also available. But I did want to shine the spotlight on the upskill challenges because these are cool. These are, again, authored by a lot of our all-star instructor, the cohort of incredible people that do phenomenal things in the industry. Atlas, you might have seen or remembered him from his previous upskill challenge where he was digging into reverse engineering software. But now we're getting into some hardware, which is awesome. I know Atlas is kind of a genius. He's won like the big DEF CON CTF like however many times in a row or something wild. So very, very excited and very happy to have Atlas part of the party. And I'm looking forward to when we can get him on a live stream if he's ever up for it. But reverse engineering hardware is free and accessible all out and about on Just Hacking Training, justhacking.com. And threat intelligence feeds. We've gotten a chance to chat with Jen a bit. She's been doing some incredible stuff for CTI, or Cyber Threat Intelligence. So we've got a wide variety here. I'm sure you can tell, touching and, hey, getting a finger in all the different things that we could actually dig into in cybersecurity. Hey, dipping our toes in the water for all the incredible different fields and directions that are here. Threat intelligence intel feeds sound awesome because I know there are a whole lot out there, and she's been doing a ton of these with the threat intelligence itself, that whole concept and field, threat landscape reports, hunting reports, and getting a chance to understand a little bit more now for threat intel feeds. But they're all super accessible because they're completely free. So I hope you do dive in. Big thanks to Jennifer and everything she's been helping contribute for all that we're up to. Excellent. But the star of the show today, if I may say, how are we doing on time? I was rambling for maybe 15 minutes. Okay, cool. Not too bad. I know the title here of our live stream was to learn Python because Python is a hacker's language. It's friendly, it's easy to read, it's easy to write. And my good buddy Brandon has been putting together some great material to help you learn a little bit more of those beginning basics, fundamental and first steps to build out your own tools with Python. I think we have a lot of ideas from even more like coding in cybersecurity, programming in cyber and all that we're up to. But this is what I'm very excited to have Brandon here with me to chat about and discuss. I don't want to steal his thunder by any means, but I do want to tease and showcase what these things look like when you get into the platform. This was our threat intelligence feeds. If you were to jump over to learning or learn.justhacking.com, you could see the real portal here to dive into each and every one of these. And the using Python to write some command line or command line interface CLI apps is where Brandon is bringing bread and butter. Good stuff. And I'm very, very excited to see all that it dives into. Again, upskill challenges are bite-sized, digestible, easy things for you to get a handle on and get started writing some code and getting a chance to work with all this. But again, I don't want to spoil it by any means. I would love to check in and see if Brandon is available to help us let us know what it's all up to, what this quiz kind of entails, and what maybe his future plans are for thinking about even more content and training and material like this to build out coding for cybersecurity. But with that, I got to shut up. I got to stop talking and let the real guest and star of the show come join the party. So I know we've been experimenting with different streaming platforms. We were on Restream for a little bit, and now we're on Riverside. I don't get to see if Brandon is ready. I don't have the little preview of what he's up to. So it's blind hope, it's blind trust. I don't know. I could ask you to give me a thumbs up, but I can't even see it. So, Brandon, I hope you're ready. I'm going to count us in, and pull you in to the live stream in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Brandon,
made it to the other side.
You made it. We're here. Thank you so much for being here, my friend.
Absolutely pleasure to be here, John.
Well, hey, for folks that might not be familiar with who you are and what you're up to, would you be willing to, I don't know, give us a little bit of a crash course? Brandon Keath, what have you been doing with the hacking lab, with your past endeavors, everything that you're up to? Could you fill us in?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Brandon Keath. I've been in the industry for about 17 years now. Started as a software developer trying to make my own video game. And after I decided that was too hard, moved into IT and programming, and then eventually cybersecurity. So I do a lot in cybersecurity, from engineering to creating lots of online educational material and instructor-led programs. So been part of several startups and excited to bring this content with Just Hacking John on Python.
Well, honestly, going way back in time, I think we got to meet. What was it, like 2018? Maybe 7 years or so now.
At B-Sides, Delaware, in the
Yeah.
speaker room, and I had no idea what you who you were. You had no idea who I was, and we got into a conversation about CTF stuff, right? Because that's what you were talking about at the time. So we were talking about the new CTF stuff. It was actually my first talk at a B-Sides conference. So it's hard to believe 7 years has come and gone so fast. So,
Well, thank you, genuinely, for being a friend throughout all those years. Thank you for being someone that's always like, "Hey, John, what are you up to? Hey, John, can we get you at this other event?" And so I'm just so grateful for all your support, and I cannot thank you enough for now helping build out some really cool new training and material, which is hacking. So thank you.
absolutely, absolutely.
Well, what else should we dive into? Are we going right to some screen share demo? Anything you've got cooking up for us? Or actually, I
Yeah.
know you had a lot of plans or ideas for what we could bring to the table with coding and cybersecurity. Is this just, oh, take one in Python and you've got more on the table? Or what else? What else are you
Oh,
thinking?
there's a whole lot more on the table, right? So this is kind of phase one. This is more of a teaser than anything. So in the pipeline, there's going to be a whole series of courses and upskill challenges on programming for cybersecurity. And some of that may not just be Python. We might look at Go. We might look at NIM. We might look at all kinds of. We might look at D and some other lesser known programming languages that you may not know about. Look up D and V. Those are programming languages. If you Google those right now, you'll find out. So there's lots of different ways that programming can help you in cybersecurity. And one of the things we're going to talk about and look at in this upskill challenge and through the coding series, it is from a cybersecurity background. You're not going to be a developer every day slinging code into GitHub. That's just not going to be your role. So we're going to focus in this series, how can you as a cybersecurity professional learn just enough and be competent enough in this subject so you don't drive yourself insane with all the things you need to learn to be a software developer, because you don't really need to be a software engineer. You just need to know enough to build something practical that's going to make your life or your job a lot easier.
May I poke that just a little bit?
Absolutely.
Because I know without a doubt, and I'm more than willing and happy to fall on my sword, that I am not a software developer. I'm not an architect. I am not an engineer to be able to build out a whole product or a whole application with all the bells and whistles. What I've done throughout however many years of videos have been scrappy, stupid scripts to be able to cut up a CTF challenge or solve some problem that's in front of me. But I know I'm not an architect. I do think that's still extremely valuable to know how to code, to know how to write and script and program just what you need to. But I think there is totally a good middle ground there. And I'm so glad that you're harping on that just as well, because I think that's super important. Folks need to be able to, sling some code around, get what you need to get done. But I know that's not going to mean a ginormous monolithic project and application, right?
Exactly. And a lot of times, and what I've been telling people, and it's gotten slightly bigger recently, but between being able to code a single file or script that's about under 500 lines of code can get you by for most or all of your career. So we're not talking large, crazy projects. And some quick examples of that, for pen testing, I've had lots of times where one example specifically was using Bloodhound, and for whatever reason, we got the JSON files, but the server crashed and we lost some information. And so we just had these JSON files with all this information in it, and the client was report on all those Active Directory information you pulled. So, and we only had a couple hours to deliver this, of course. So wrote a Python script, parsed the JSON, and put it in a Word document in a report. Very quick little 30, less than 30 lines of code saved my life on that project. And that's just one of several examples from parsing or doing something in Python. And that's what we're focusing in on this upskill challenge, is how do I build those little tools, whether it's on a pen test, whether I'm a defender, how do I build a little tool? I know a little bit of Python, I know the syntax. How do I go about building a tool to solve a specific problem I have? And that's where we introduce and go over to, and I have this, you can actually download it in this upskill. It's called the Python reference under a file, has a lot of cool diagrams, just catch you up on Python, everything from variable types to control structure, just some fun diagrams to help remember, if you're like, well, what's that again? What's a while loop? Just a quick little diagram reminder. But the thing we're going to focus on a lot is, how do I actually build the tools? So many cybersecurity professionals are, Brandon, I read the Automate the Boring Stuff with Python. I read this book on Python. I went to this B-Sides class on Python. So I learned the syntax. I don't know what to do with it. And when they go and look it up, they'll see this, because this is what will come up. It'll talk about top-down development, event-driven development. You'll get to all these very sophisticated things. Okay, well, you're going to identify your problem. You're going to break down your tasks. You're going to create your plan and develop functions. And I remember working with coding teams where they had design documents that were 50 or 100 pages of Word document talking about how they were going to design the program, how each class was going to work. And for us, when we're just trying to build a very small program, we don't need all of that. And it's not bad to have it, but we just need to focus on the very simple aspects. So there's 3 steps. Is, what are my inputs? What am I doing when I get the input, and what's my output, right? Am I parsing an nmap file? Am I bringing in an IP address for a custom scanner? And how that looks when we look at code-wise, I actually have a little template here to think through your tool, a little tool template to just really think through it. Like, how do I build pseudocode? You might hear other developers talk about pseudocode all the time and say, well, what does that really mean? Back in the day, it might have meant writing things up on a whiteboard. We don't do that as much anymore, sometimes in some offices, but some of us work remotely and all over the place. So how do we do that? Just getting our thoughts down. And I use Visual Studio Code, so it's all in the same interface, right? What are my inputs? What am I trying to get in this application? What am I going to do once it's in there for the processing? Is it going to call a service? Is it going to open a socket to something? Is it going to build a doc? Is it going to run a loop? What's it doing? And that can be anything from API calls to just printing out information or parsing information in a report. And then we get to that output. We finally have that report or the terminal message. And by doing that, it makes it a lot easier. So you know the syntax and you can take your problem and through this 3-step process build it. And how that looks, and we're going to use our own Python scanner. And I know there's going to be a couple people out there, well, Brandon, I've seen this before. Why are we building a Python scanner or port scanner when we got Nmap, we got Rust scan, we got mass scan? Well, it's not useful. I will agree to that. But it's just a thought process for how you might go through it, right? Because we've all used Nmap, or we probably have used Nmap. Even if you're just breaking into the field, seems to be the first tool we use. So that is why we look at this. So what do we need to do for a port scanner? Well, we need to read in some kind of arguments, right? And that might be through in sys environment variables. That might be through argparse, or it's going to be a Python fire, which we're going to talk about in a couple seconds. And then we need to read that in and make sure it's in the right format, or we take an IP address, a port number, then we can use that to do something. That's going to be our processing. Then we're actually going to perform our main operation. We're going to open some sockets and some ports, and then in our output, we're going to actually say what we're doing. And to demonstrate that, here it is. So these are our 5 steps, right? Getting our input in. Once the port scanner gets in the input, we're going to establish a connection. We're going to check the port status. We're going to make the TCP IP connection to some kind of port. Are you open? Are you not? We're going to output the results, and we'll have some error handling. There is our app in a nutshell that we're going to build. And we have lots of options to build that in Python. We can build that in a more traditional way, which might be like with a loop. So we can call a port scanner while loop. We're going to check to make sure the input is put in a different way. And every time we start it, it's going to run a loop. And we'll run that right now. I'll let you interject if you have anything to interject, John, while I run this.
I am more so happy to see even just the variation of syntax, because just as you alluded to, I know some folks might raise their hand and say, oh, hey, a port scanner, we've got Nmap, what's the why? And in my opinion, it's always really just, okay, getting familiar with the syntax. It's getting a chance to know, what does this language do and how does it do it? And how can you write it so you can make it do what you want it to do? And I know you were alluding to even just taking in inputs or like command line arguments if you were to try and run this script or tool from your terminal. I, for one, am so used to argparse. That's always just what I tend to crank out when I'm writing Python code. And I'll admit, I had never even heard of Python Fire before, or that sweet module and opportunity to, make this even easier. So even that, just the cool exposure and awareness to, different ways to do things, a little bit more education and awareness on what else is out there. I love it. I'm happy.
And so now here is our loop, and it runs, it asks for our IP address, and we can put in a domain name. We do example.com. It wants the port to scan. We do port 80, we see it's open. If we do the same thing, it's going to keep asking. If we do the same thing, do port 8080, we'll see that that's not open for example.com. It'll take a little longer. And that's fine. That works, but it's not a command line application like we're used to, right? We don't have the flags, we don't have all those things. So we can do it in that, and that's the first way you'll typically see on a tutorial. You will build an application. But as John said, a lot of the tutorials start, if you're building a command line application, is argparse. And argparse is a great built-in syntactical tool for building your command line application. It has a lot of rules around it in how you parse information. You have to create your flags or arguments individually in it and specifically list out, because the argparse or argument parser, which is where it got its name from, needs that list of arguments. So we end up with not a bad 64 lines of code to write it in argparse, which is fine, and that works great. But if we look at Python Fire, which we're going to talk about, is a library that will automatically generate a command line application based off any methods or functions that you write in Python. So if you can write a function in Python, you can write a command line application. And how this works is it takes the actual function and just exposes it on the command line. And go back to, I know I'm jumping around here, everybody, but I promise I'll get a little better. There we go. There's my library, generates command line, speeds up the process of building tools. So we can see, how do we use it? We import the Python Fire library. You'll have to pip install it into your virtual environment or your global environment. You create your function. In this case, we're defining hello. And then we are doing if name equals mains, fire.fire. That means if you run this Python file, like Python, whatever this file is, it's going to immediately know to run the library fire.fire to run this as a command line application. So that's the syntax. You can also just use that for running a Python file in generally when you call it. And how that looks, go back over to our terminal. Here we go. We do our just regular port scanner.py is this. It says type in, you didn't type in the command, type in help. We type in help. It actually will tell us what it does, how to use it, a synopsis of it, gives us our positional arguments, and all we did was give it a function. So it makes it very easy to create a tool you might be very used to in Kali Linux or any other tool. The other thing I will say is this prototypes you for other languages. And I saw someone in the chat said, why would you use Python when you have compiled languages like Rust or Go that are a lot faster? Well, this can be, you can make this tool in about 5 to 10 minutes and test it to see if it works, and then rewrite the code, or even have a transpiler help you set up the code in another language. And we'll actually talk about this. I have another upskill challenge I'm planning, which will actually talk about GoFire, which is another tool inspired by Python Fire that allows you for quickly creating command line applications in Go. So that'll be coming. Hopefully I can convince John we'll do a live stream on that one too.
That exists?
It does exist.
I'm so used to Cobra when I need to do some Golang argument parsing, or like the flag module, and that's always annoying to deal with. So I am ecstatic for GoFire. That's super cool.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things, and once again, from a programming purist perspective, this skips some steps. So if you are using Python Fire, it doesn't always do all the syntactical checking and everything that argparse and some of the other ones do. And that's what we're sacrificing to make it work like this. But also, this is about building your own tools for a specific challenge you're having. It's not necessarily about, and we'll get to that later, publishing your own tools necessarily on GitHub. Because once you get used to the syntax, adding a little bit more to put it in argparse or a different kind of framework that might be a little bit more robust is a lot easier, because you know what you're building. You've built these things before, and it's really just a couple syntactical sugar things to add to make it more robust.
Super cool. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a fun thing. My goal is to get everyone out there making their own command line applications because it's fun and easy. And honestly, it's very addictive once I figured out how to do this. The other thing to mention to this, which this can get a little dangerous, is Python Fire also works on existing Python code. So any tool that's already written in a function in Python, you open up a Python file, it has functions in it. If you import Fire, you can then call that function as a command line tool, which opens up some unique possibilities for all the tools already written in Python Fire. So I mean, already written in Python. I actually use this to make to add additional commands to a couple different tools. Previously, I think there was a password cracker that blanking on the name TrustedSec. TrustedSec released a hate crack, right? And they had the whole interface 1 through 7. I didn't want to use that interface. I just wanted to skip to the good stuff. So add Python Fire. All of a sudden, I'm just running the specific hate cracking function that I want from that tool very quickly for whatever pen test I'm running. So a lot of power behind that, even expanding existing tools and customizing it to do exactly what you want.
Yeah, because I mean, you could rip out a chunk of some components, whether it's like Impacket or
Yeah,
any other Python based tooling, Go string unresolver or garble unresolver. One of the cool new tools Mandiant put out that I had a video to showcase with like, oh, deobfuscating obfuscated Golang binaries. The utility is in Python. Well, okay, you could rip out and get specific parts of it. That is super cool.
yeah.
I like that a lot.
I actually have used that also. What was the other tool? It's now NetExec, but CrapMapExec, I actually used it a lot for just ripping out certain parts that I wanted or accessing or changing parts to the crap map database that it creates in the background, the database file and some of the information. So again, it all of a sudden it makes you better as a hacker, makes you better as a defender. You can make these tools and edit your existing tools and workflow and really do some cool stuff that you didn't have the options before. And as we all know, when doing these CTFs, the more options you have available to you to solve a problem, the better.
Building out your toolkit without a doubt. Do you have a like ginormous pile of disparate scripts to be able to just get any job done as needed?
I do have a lot. One that I will, and this is another example I'll share. So our Plex track and parsing license for Nessus expired at some point, and it was in the middle of a test, and we didn't have the time to get the renewal done. So I had all this Nessus data I had to parse. So I actually have a 200 or 300 line script, and let me see if I have it in
If you need
recent.
me to bring down your screen
Give me
share
a
or
sec.
anything
You might
while
see a
you're
bunch
pulling
of
up.
things from all my Skyrim programming mods or something that I'm
Heck
doing too.
yeah.
So I think this is the one. Yes, parse 6. So in this one, it's actually 207 lines of code, and this takes in, it's a Python Fire application, takes in a .nessus, which is an XML file, and parses it to a Word file as a report. So again, a lot bigger than our 32-line code. There's a lot more to this. And I actually had a lot of issues with this, and this was over 3 years ago I did this. It ran really slow when I first wrote it. And ChatGPT had just come out, and I said, what the heck? I'm going to ask it to solve this problem for me. I was like, do I need to go to Go? Do I need to do something else? This takes 20 minutes to run. This is not going to work. And it's like, well, you could do that, or you could use this specific library that's pre-compiled to C that's going to just run almost just as fast for your specific use case. And I said, wait, what? What is it? Wait a minute. And that's kind of a good area. People talk about AI slop nowadays and people using AI to just do everything. But I think as a pair programmer, especially as a cyber security person who's not always doing things, we may not always, we're researching security threats. We don't always up to date on everything. And while ChatGPT does get things wrong, sometimes it does give you some hints and some good tidbits on code that may be incorrect. So you can go in and for me, it went from 20 minutes to 30 seconds by swapping out the recommended library that was compiled.
That's wild. That's a huge good increase in time.
100%. And it was one of those things where I had no idea that existed. And I know there are, and this is where we dive into the craziness of PyPy, and you can embed C in Python, which was another thing I learned that I didn't realize you could do, which is just, that gets a little crazy. But again, it all starts at the beginning. You start by building your own apps, you'll build your own expertise. And with these courses that we're building, it's about building your confidence, right? So you can start, so you don't feel overwhelmed by all the noise and feel bad because you keep failing, because that's part of programming. But this knowledge can help you skip a few steps so you can learn from my mistakes so you don't have to make the same ones.
Well, hey, a couple different things we could banter and fall down the rabbit hole for, because I know you mentioned, do we get to a point where we should get to Golang or a more compiled language? And I know, yeah, there were maybe folks in the chat asking the same thing. Oh, why not go for something that's even faster, that's even stronger? Is Python normally just the language you reach for, or do you find yourself even more in Go or R or whatever other language du jour?
So for me, regardless of other languages, and I've tried a bunch of them, and I started not as a Python person. I actually started as a C++ person and Java, so that was my home for the longest time, especially when I did a lot of video game modding. A lot of it was Java and C with those engines. And Python just is easier to read, to remember, to build things in. There are a few languages where you can build a prototype of a full working application in 30 lines of code. And that's across the spectrum. Whether you are building a command line application or you want to build a web application with something like Flask in 10 lines of code, which I know you've talked about before, John, there is just, no matter what, when you look at other languages, it's just not that simple, right? And there is lots of ways that you can scale applications, and there are lots of use cases where Go's better or Rust is better or this is better in this use case, but few are a Swiss Army life, like Swiss Army knife, pronunciation, like Python is. If you want to build a mobile app, you can build it in Python. If you want to build a web app, you can do it in Python. You want to do data science, machine learning, you do it in Python. You want to automate, you'll use Ansible, and guess what? That's written in Python, right? So there is so many caveats that makes Python a strong contender for these areas where once you know how to code and you know the way to code, whether that's the IPO model or the top-down model, you can take that same model and do it in another programming language. But I don't think people should get hung up on, should I do this programming language because it's faster? I think for us as cybersecurity professionals, it is more, how fast can we get the job done with the limited time and knowledge? Because we're already investigating, SOC, all the companies implementing AI without telling us, shadow IT, all the other stuff that we have to focus on. And we have like this much time to focus on some of the programming stuff we want to learn, and just an enormous never-ending amount of things we could go into, because it's a full-time job by itself to be a software developer and learn all those things. So I think it's a good argument to do that. And there's nothing that prevents you, after doing a bunch of things in Python, to writing things in Go, writing things in Rust. You can do that. I do that. There's certain things I write in Go, certain things I write in .NET. A lot of video game mods I put out are actually still in .NET too. So a lot of things I do are still in that. For hacking, you're still going to have PowerShell and .NET anyway. So
will we see a .NET coding for cybersecurity, C Sharp, some PowerShell here and
we
there?
very
We
well
might.
might. So
Well, hey, I know we've been.
if enough people want that, I'm happy to do that one as well. So that we'll start with Python. We'll probably do some stuff with Go. If people want to do some stuff with .NET, we can definitely look at doing some .NET stuff too, because there's a lot of cool things we can do in that. And there's also Iron Python, which is a compiled .NET version of Python that uses the .NET compiler, but your syntax is Python. So that could be an interesting bridge as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, my friend. I am super excited to see all these start to come together. And I'm teasing, obviously. Oh, we're not making any deadlines or anything, but it's so cool to see. Hey, getting a little bit more tactical, getting on the keyboard, slinging some code. And thank you for helping lead the charge on it, Brandon.
Absolutely. Glad to be here, John. Thank you so much.
Are there any questions that we saw maybe scrolling through in the chat for some folks that might have been wondering on a couple different things? I did see one mention of, hey, why don't pen testers or other cybersecurity folks talk much about things like TensorFlow or PyTorch, maybe for rapid development work as like a proof of concept? But does that pour into the AI world? I think I normally see TensorFlow and PyTorch for like more machine learning stuff.
Yeah, so
I think.
it depends on which circles you're talking about, because I have seen lots of people talk about PyTorch and TensorFlow for rapid development, and you can get into things with infrastructure as code too. There's a lot of that when we talk about setting up infrastructure in Azure or Google or AWS, where you use Python code or Ansible to set that up. So there are people who talk about it. You may not see it all the time. Like, it may not be something that's always covered on a YouTube channel, but there's definitely a lot of forum chats, a lot of Discord servers where people do talk about that. I think it's probably just not covered quite as much because it may be a niche area where just certain groups of people are using that for their use case. But I mean, PyTorch and TensorFlow are both great tools and can absolutely help do rapid development.
Brandon, do you have a YouTube channel? I see some folks asking.
I do.
Excellent.
So my YouTube channel is called the Hacking Lab LLC because the Hacking Lab was unfortunately taken once they changed the naming. I lost my name, but you can go to that channel. I post a bunch of videos on cybersecurity and Python and programming. So love to see anyone who wants to come visit there.
Excellent. May I, or are you able to maybe nuke your screen share, and we can get to us just bantering? Well, the last couple of questions, and folks, sorry. Yeah, okay,
yes,
cool. I see
no
some
problem.
links going down in the chat for it. Any languages ideal for game development or game modding? I know you were digging into that world. Is that more of the C and Java world?
So interestingly enough, it depends on your engine a lot of times for that. So right now, two of the most popular engines are Unity 3D and Unreal. So for Unreal, you're going to do a lot with C and C++. For Unity, you actually do a lot in C#. So it depends on which engine you're utilizing. There used to be a lot more. Pygame used to be really big back in the day. And one of my favorite MMOs at the time was Pirates of the Caribbean, and where you could buy your own ship and join with other people on ship and shoot other ships. And it was a jolly good time. And one of the only games where they had in-game blackjack written in Python for the game, which was really interesting. Yeah, so there is lots of, no matter what you're trying to do, if you're looking to get into game development, I would definitely start with Unity 3D and C#. So much of it is going to be about your dev tooling. It's going to be a combination of programming, but knowing your tool. Like, video game development IDEs are a lot more complicated than VS Code or Visual Studio. So you'll spend a lot more time just learning how to place objects, manipulating properties, and doing a lot of things in that 3D landscape beyond just the programming part. I have not played with the Rust core utilities, so I'll actually look that up and see. I haven't done a whole lot, so I don't have an opinion on that specifically.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of conversations on a lot of the Linux core utilities or even parts of the Linux kernel maybe being rewritten in Rust. And there's some back and forth on that, whether people have a pro opinion or a anti opinion on that. Uh, Fun nerd drama, I guess, on social media is all.
Well, it's kind of interesting too because some of the programming languages I like to look at, like I like to look at D and V and some of these other lesser known ones. And I forget which one. I can't remember. If it's the D programming language or the V programming language. It has a GUI built into the standard library
Oh, it might be
where
V.
you can just build your own GUI application within it, which was really fascinating to me. So there is so Rust is really cool, but it's interesting to think about what the future programming languages will be too. And from a malware development standpoint, the newer programming languages, and you talked about this in the NIM video, John, the ones that are lesser known are the ones that bypass the scanners because it's not well known or not well trained on to stop them as a threat. Yeah, I think it is V. V is the one with the built-in UI.
Not to nerd out, but I was so excited for V because it looks so sweet, and I think it just like faded away. I don't know if, or at least there weren't a lot of things that came to light, came to fruition that I think they were hyping up, but I don't know. That's a whole nother
Yeah,
rabbit
it's
hole.
and this is a whole other issue that we have as cybersecurity professionals and from a software development industry. So much of the IT industry is held up by volunteers.
Yeah.
And that is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. What happens when people retire, quit, stop dedicating hours of their time? One of the big issues, I think it was like a year ago, there was some developers on GitHub at one point because there were so many security concerns coming through. They turned off the ability to submit reports
Oh yeah.
for security issues. They just turned it off. And to be fair on their end, they're a volunteer and they were getting spammed about security issues. And their take on it was a bunch of them were not security issues. Like it was automated scanners and tools that were registering things wrong. They were getting hit with hundreds of emails on false positives for things. But that also means they're not getting any of the actual security issues either that people might find.
Any lasting questions for us all? I do see a cool one that was thinking, hey, do you have a Python for Hackers course? Soon,
Soon,
maybe more formal. Is that something that
we'll
you're
be
thinking?
working. We're going to be working that in. So right now, we haven't had an exact number, but there's potentially 6 to 8 courses coming, covering a lot of these different things. So
Goodness gracious.
I don't want to make
Hey.
any promises here, but there's a lot in the potential pipeline coming here. So
man.
it'll be, if there's things you want to see, let us know in the comments. Talk about what you want to see, and we'll work to get those in the courses. It's about what you're experiencing as a cybersecurity professional or a student in your workflow. Like, I want to know what are the things you struggle with so we can explain things in a way or create things in a way that's going to make sense. Because I've been that person when I started in this field and went to 20 Python books, and it took me the longest time to get over that hump before I actually started making any code, like reasonably. I just sit there in front of the keyboard. I was like, I don't know what to make. I know the syntax. I don't know what I should build. And we want to be able to get past that.
Well, goodness. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Brandon. Especially thank you. I'm just ecstatic and I'm so happy for your enthusiasm and your wanting to take this thing and run with it and being willing to get some new things out the door with just hacking training and kind of join forces and do all the incredible things together. So seriously, genuinely, thank you. I'm looking forward to it. I hope everyone gets a chance to dive into this first upskill challenge, and then maybe, yeah, if you're still feeling up for more to come.
Absolutely. So get in there, try the upskill challenge, 100% free. No reason to not dive in today. What are you waiting for? Just get to hacking.
Well, if I may, I'll start to tune us out here and let me roll through the very last gentle reminders, if I may, for all of y'all. Yes, this is recorded. Yes, this was recorded. Yes, this will be up on all the channels. So please, if you're interested in this conversation or any of the others, we'll be there out and about online. And the conferences, the IRL opportunities for us to get together. Look, we are seriously super duper stoked for B-Side Chicago. The very end of October coming up for our live and in-person training with myself and with Michelle and with Trevor and with Ellie and all this awesome stuff. There's a 10% discount code still floating out and about. And this is something that I did forget. And I saw the messages is like, oh, John, you forgot to say this. You did forget to say something. I'll be their closing lock note or the keynote at the very end of the conference to help close out the show. So that should be a ton of fun. And I hope to see you there. Some links flying around in chat for B-Side Chicago and all the workshops. But that's it. That's all the administrivia, all of the things I got to boilerplate, get out of the way and say. With that, I don't know. I think we're A-okay, Brendan. Should we tune out? Should we call it a day? Thank you again and again.
I think we call it a day. And again, I will be hanging around if you guys have any questions in the John Hammond Discord server. So you can always feel free, hit me up, ask questions. I see some of them in the chat. We didn't get to all of them. I'll answer some of them when I can. So.
A lot of great questions, everybody. Thank you so much. Hey, what I'm going to do, because I know I'm awful at the funny, awkward outro, let me go ahead and roll the JHT sizzle reel once again, and then we'll close out on that. So I'll let that be our ending and a sweet, gentle reminder for all the fun stuff we're up to. But thank you so much, Brendan. Thank you. Bye, all. Learn cybersecurity and focus technical training with justhacking.com, where all-star instructors and industry experts provide hands-on, affordable, and practical learning. Across courses, free upskill challenges, hack-along training videos, and capture the flag competitions, there's always something to hack. With new content twice a month, all throughout the year, plus bi-monthly live streams, you can sharpen your skills in our on-demand and interactive lab environments. Advance your career and level up, regardless of your experience or budget. Forget all the noise and get to Just Hacking. Sign up now at justhacking.com.